Hello EFD squad and welcome back to another episode of Transfer Review with me and my second favourite Dutchman on the planet after Pierre van Hooijdonk. He is the one and only Patrick van Straten.
Hello.
Back from the City of Love, how was it?
It was fine.
Yeah, I missed you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
No worries. We go straight in with Manchester City's recent transfer dealings, starting with Bernardo Silva, Pato. Let's put this transfer move that has been complete under the microscope.
Yeah, £43 million for the 22-year-old Portuguese player. It's a 5-year deal, and it represents a huge increase on the amount that Monaco paid Benfica for him just 3 years ago. They paid £12 million for him when he was in their under-17 team. Now this season, he's got 10 goals and 10 assists in 54 club appearances, with very decent numbers. And let's dig into his stats a little bit more. 1.6 shots per game, one of those comes from inside the box. So he doesn't take a lot of shots, but when he takes them, they're from good positions. 1.5 key passes a game, that's pretty decent as well. And 2 dribbles. So he's able to beat his man, despite the fact that he's a very small player. Now, people are talking about him as the long-term replacement for David Silva. I'm not sure that they play in terribly similar ways to my eye. I think that this is based on the hair, the surname, and the height.
Which is 173 centimetres for the pair of them.
Research.
So is it lazy journalism or is there genuine comparisons? Well, both can play all across the midfield, can't they? Especially further forward in more advanced positions. Both are capable of dropping deep to link up the play. And they've both got great ball retention, haven't they? Great vision. They can control the pace of the game. So in that manner, I can see some similarities, even if you're struggling with it. But I think he's got a long way to go before he matches the Spaniard's output, hasn't he? I mean, David Silva is averaging 60 passes a game. Bernardo Silva, I'm going to trip over my Silvas, is averaging about 32 with an 81% pass accuracy. I think David Silva's, is nearer to 90. The Spaniard also manages 2.5 key passes a game, which is one more than the little Portuguese maestro. So yeah, he's got some way to go. We have the Jedi here and the Padawan, I think, you know, to put it in layman's terms. But Manchester City, I suppose, under Pep Guardiola, have turned into possession-based, kind of midfield controlling monsters, haven't they? And who knows, maybe Bernardo Silva's output might skyrocket with that. I mean, they averaged, I think, 6,000 more passes than Monaco last season. And we know that Monaco are a possession-based side in League One at the very least. So, you know, maybe he'll slot in seamlessly, Pat. But I think the more pressing question is, who is going to miss out as a result? Well,
yeah, it looks like Kelechi Iheanacho is going to leave, though, with a buyback clause. Now, we've heard from the club chairman today that Sergio Aguero is staying as well. That leaves Gabriel Jesus as well, Kevin De Bruyne, Raheem Sterling, Leroy Sané, of course, Yaya Toure, who can play a bit further forward, David Silva, and now Bernardo Silva as well. And somehow, all these guys have to get minutes. When you're 22, you can't afford to sit on the bench because you need this time to develop. So I'm not really sure what happens. Well,
do you remember him?
You'd have thought Zinchenko would go back out on loan, but he's apparently been very good as well. Apparently so. Okay. We forget about the attacking riches they have. They've got Paddy Roberts as well, Man City.
Yeah, the British Bernardo Silva. I can't believe that they're not contemplating bringing him back into the first team setup.
It's better than Bernardo Silva.
He is an outstanding player. I know you're actually a fan of him. You're not even
I love Paddy Roberts. I'm not taking the piss at all. Like, I think Bernardo Silva is a very good player, but as we've said, we can't quite see the sense in this one. But what do you guys at home think? Is he the long-term heir to David Silva, or is one of those players going to get sold this summer? Could Raheem Sterling be on his way out of the door, as has been rumoured in some papers? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Okay, so that's one down. The second Man City deal, which looks very close to completion, is Ederson Moraes, who is the goalkeeper for Benfica, who looks to be done for around £33 million. Now, that would be a goalkeeper record in pounds, but not in euros because of exchange rates. Economics. Go ahead, tell me about this guy.
Right, well, I don't know an awful lot about this guy. I mean, 24 this year. Made 37 appearances in all competitions for Benfica last season. This included 7 in the Champions League, so he played at quite a high level last year. Averaged a very impressive 3.4 saves per game in that competition. But as we know, they faced an awful lot of shots, specifically against Dortmund, when they got absolutely battered at home.
That's true.
And won 1-0. That's a whole save more than Kevin Trapp I've got down here. That is
Specific.
world-class comparison.
Specific.
Tim Vickery, who I'm a big fan of, he's the BBC's South American correspondent, described him as physically imposing, commanding an almost Neuer-esque, Patrick. So
almost Neuer-esque.
That's what I'm going off.
Well, job done. I'm sure that Pep heard that and he thought, get him in the door. Now, to be honest with you, this guy could be working on the second floor of our office and I would have absolutely no idea. Got no idea what he looks like. But anyway, his pass accuracy is quite low relative to Pep Guardiola's other keepers in the past. So he's got a 61% pass accuracy, which actually isn't that bad when you consider that their distribution from goalkeeper at Benfica averages about 45 metres, whereas Man City's is about 30 metres. So his passes are going 1.5 times further. So it's unsurprising that his pass accuracy is 15% lower than Willy Caballero's has been this season and 18% lower than Manuel Neuer's. However, he could improve as he gets older. And also it depends who's up front, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if you're hitting a long ball to a guy who's dominant in the air, you are going to complete those more often. If he's hitting them into midfield for Yaya Toure and Fernandinho to win them, maybe they'll pick up a greater percentage of them. Now, he's had caps for the under-23s for Brazil, but he's yet to appear for the senior side. However, he has been included in the squad for Brazil's upcoming friendlies. Now, what we really want to know here is whether Benfica fans rate this guy at all. Because you know nothing. Definitely you know nothing. Absolutely nothing. I know nothing. We'd ask Joe, but he obviously knows nothing. So we need your expertise to tell us what he's like. What sort of a keeper is Ederson? Would he be a good signing for Man City? Hit us up. But moving on.
All right, we've spoke about a deal that has gone through, a deal that might go through, and one that is apparently firmly in the pipeline. Green, amber, red traffic light system here on the transfer review. And the third, the red on our list, what am I talking about, is Benjamin Mendy. This deal isn't over the line yet, Pato, but the Express are reporting that Manchester City are confident about beating Manchester United, Barca and Liverpool. Liverpool, you don't stand a chance. For the £38 million rated 22-year-old. Now, he's got 1 goal and 8 assists in all competitions this season, so he's been in excellent form. He's averaging 1.4 crosses per game in the league. That's about the same as Marcelo in La Liga. He averages 34 passes a game, which is the same as Bernardo Silva, who we were talking about prior, so he's heavily involved in play. 3.5 tackles and interceptions, but he does make 1.2 fouls per game, Pato, which you'd imagine he'd have to iron out in order to really kind of solidify his position in a Pep outfit. But, you know, it's probably a product of his youth more so than his temperament, I'd imagine. What do you think about the leggy left back?
Yeah, well, as you've said, he does have an eye for getting forward, this man. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, well, as you've said, he does like to get forward. In the Champions League, he's completed 2.5 dribbles a game from left back. What an enormous offensive weapon that is. It means that the opposition fullback has to stay deeper, and it really does pin teams back. We've seen him get into that wide area in the box and get pullbacks, and it's produced goals time and time again.
Delivery as well as delightful, isn't it?
It's very, very good. And 2.5 dribbles a game is about the same as Julian Brandt, Raheem Sterling, almost as many as Celtic's shit kicker, Tom Rogic. But anyway, he played for Le Havre and for Marseille before this. He made the Ligue 1 Team of the Year this season. He's earned his first France cap, and it came against Luxembourg. So as we say, tested against top opposition.
Yes.
That's the main thing. Now, rumours were all over the internet this week. Some people said that he was already on a plane to Manchester, and he put up a little video of himself driving a scooter, buzzing around Monaco, I think he was. So having a really good time. I think that he'd be an absolutely fantastic signing for Man City, but as you've said, there is a lot of competition for this man. Where's he going to end up?
I mean, unlike Bernardo Silva, Man City unquestionably need wing-backs, don't they?
They need at least
Who
two.
are capable of playing in that midfield. We saw it with Bayern when Pep was there. He likes to push his full-backs up so they can join the midfield, doesn't he? So he can free that attacking midfielder up just to go any which way. Mendy would be absolutely perfect. I think Kyle Walker's been mentioned on that right-hand side, hasn't he? If they're going to compete across all fronts, Pato, they're going to need not just 1 or 2 full-backs, but potentially 3 or 4, aren't they?
I certainly would love to see him come to the Premier League, but is he going to? Guys, there's a poll up there. Is he going to go to Man City, Man United, Barcelona or Liverpool? Vote now and let us know.
We move over to Serie A shores now, where Gazzetta dello Sport are reporting that Inter Milan are in a big way for Lazio's Keita Balde. Not quite a rhyme there. But yes, the 22-year-old has had an excellent season at Lazio. He scored 16 times in 34 appearances. More impressively, only 22 of those were starts, Pato. He's got 3 assists as well, meaning he was involved in a goal every 101 minutes. That's better than Zlatan Ibrahimovic at United in the Premier League. Now, when I've watched him, he's looked pacey, strong, skillful, loves to step over, can change his direction, he can turn on a sixpence. And he's looked, in at least what I've seen of him, like the complete forward package. Good variation of finishing, really nice right foot. But yeah, I think
we looked at him on a scout report quite a long time ago, and we noticed then that his shooting accuracy was getting better season on season, and that he was taking a lot of shots from inside the box. So it's no surprise that suddenly his goal-scoring numbers have just leapt forward. You know what this actually reminds me of is Antoine Griezmann when he was at Real Sociedad. His numbers just went up, just ticked up.
Exponentially.
And then when you get to 22, 23, they make the leap and they move to a kind of centre-forward position. He's moved into a more attacking role this season, and suddenly their goal numbers go through the roof. Of course, as well, he was at La Masia for a while, Barcelona's academy, so it's no surprise that he's got some decent technique then. And we also know he's got a decent head on his shoulders. I believe he turned down a move to Man United's academy at one stage because he said that he thought he'd develop better in Italy. So he's an interesting guy. Now, despite being born in Spain, he's actually a Senegalese international, and he's attracted interest from Chelsea, from Juventus, and from Man United again, though you'd have thought that if Man United go for Ivan Perisic from Inter, then Keita could be Perisic's replacement with the Nerazzurri.
Odd move, Perisic.
Now, the only younger player to score a brace and a hat-trick in Europe's top 5 leagues last season was Kylian Mbappe.
So he's keeping very good company.
Well, it says good company there, and you know what that tells me? That tells me that you've been on Opta Twitter accounts, mate. That's what that tells me right there. But it'd be interesting to see which of those sides needs an attacking forward. Now, Chelsea, of course, have got Michy Batshuayi, who can't really get a game, but they are going to need depth going into a European campaign. Man United, what are they going to do with Martial? Is Rashford going to continue as a centre forward? Who are they going to buy this summer? Probably a bunch of people. Perisic, of course, as well. Inter, Perisic on his way out. Barbosa probably on his way out. Icardi really the only reliable source of goals. Maybe more feasible. So it makes sense. They've got plenty of money. He's definitely one of the outstanding attacking players in Serie A. But of course, he might well want to say Lazio have enjoyed a very, very good season. We're kind of unsure.
Really good partnership with Ciro Immobile as well. So hopefully, Lazio fans, you retain that and stay competitive next season. Let's move on, Pato.
Let's.
Last but not least, we're going to talk about Thomas Tuchel's exit from Dortmund, which happened just before we started filming this. Now, this is a guy who's come second and third in his 2 seasons at Dortmund. In that first season when he came second, they finished on 78 points.
Wow.
Which in another year could have secured him the title. Now, this is a guy who's never lost at home, only lost 10 of 68 Bundesliga matches, so it couldn't have been about his performance on the field, could it? But they've still secured Champions League football, which was one of his aims at the start of the season, and he ended the club's 5-year wait for a trophy, Pato. What do you make of this, and where do you hope he goes next?
Well, it seems that...
Bearing in mind that Arsene Wenger looks to have signed a 2-year contract.
Yeah, he does. I mean, that would have been the obvious place for Tuchel to go. His style would have been a natural evolution for Arsenal. But it's weird that he's left after doing, by all accounts, a very good job. Now, we've seen that there have been rifts that have opened up with Hans-Joachim Watzke, who is the CEO of Dortmund, with Michael Zorc, who's the sporting director, and with Sven Mislintat, who's the head scout. We've seen this time and time again over the course of the season, stories coming out saying that there have been problems behind the scenes. And though a lot of the newer players seem to be very, very loyal to Tuchel, some of the older guard aren't happy. He obviously let Blaszczykowski go, he treated he put Weidenfeller on the bench, which a lot of fans were unhappy about. Marcel Schmelzer and Marco Reus don't seem to be big fans either. So there has gradually been a separation between the pro-Tuchel camp and the anti-Tuchel camp, and the anti-Tuchel camp have the power on their side. Now, the interesting question is, where will he go next? And where will Dortmund go next as well? I mean, Tuchel, he's a very, very good manager, but you'd have thought that a lot of the clubs mooted are steps back for him. He's been linked with Leverkusen. I don't really see that. He's been linked with various Premier League clubs, none of whom are good enough for him, I'd have thought, unless Arsenal were to do an about turn and suddenly get rid of Arsene Wenger. It doesn't seem very likely. Now, an interesting one we thought might be Roma. Luciano Spalletti's left. and they play an attacking brand of football. They've got a lot of young players who they're trying to develop. It seems like that would make sense for Monchi to try and bring him in. And actually, I'd go further and say I'd like Spalletti to go the other way. I think that would really make a lot of sense. Dortmund have been linked primarily with Lucien Favre, who's obviously been at Nice this last year. Now that doesn't seem to make sense to me on a style level. Favre is much more defensive. He's not as keen on counter-attacking. He's not as keen on pressing. It seems that Dortmund squad is built to do something that Favre fundamentally doesn't want to do.
What about PSG sack Emery? Emery goes back to Sevilla. Tuchel goes to PSG. And Spalletti goes to Inter.
Okay, so who goes to Roma?
Me.
Yeah? You heard it here first. Chris Hamill is going to Roma next season for a trial period.
Head physio.
I'm head physio.
Strong hand.
Thank you.
So that was this week's transfer review, guys. Have we missed anybody out? Let us know, as always, in the comments below. Would you like to see us profile another club in the same way with the Manchester City this week? Again, type away. What should the fine people do next?
Let's check out Stat Wars as usual. You can also look at Continental Club, where Chris sat down with Joe and for some reason Zach and got their wisdom about football matters. So if you're into weird views and weird haircuts, then check that one out.
Pacey legs and curly hair.